Good afternoon. Thank you, Logan Fraker, our producer, for getting us started again this afternoon. Turned out to be a pretty nice day out there. Kind of warm out there, but had a nice shower this morning. So here we are on September the 21st, and we're honored to have a guy with us today that everybody in Marshfield knows, someone that really helped build Marshfield over the last half a century, Mr. Wayne Plunkett. Wayne, thank you. Thanks for
Glad to
coming
be
in.
here.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about Wayne's life and all the things that he's done for our community and for his family in his life, and it's going to be a great day. Um, do want to always thank Dennis Beck for our theme song. Dennis, thank you. And with that, we're going to move right on into Mr. Plunkett. Wayne, I tell you what, you've had a career and a life of community service that maybe is exceeded about anybody that I can think of in our community. And first one, just want to thank you for that. We
Well,
really appreciate it.
thank you. I've enjoyed it. It's been a good life. Marshfield's been good to me. Uh, I've always wanted to return stuff back to the Marshfield.
Yeah.
So, and saying that about Dennis Beck, I remember Dennis Beck and his band when I worked for Bob Baldwin across the street there
Yeah.
practicing in their band.
Yeah. I'd forgotten they practiced over there.
Yeah. The old house there.
The old house.
Where O'Reilly used to be, sort of.
Kind of remember that now.
Yeah. See, those kids sort of growing up.
That's right. That's right. Well, they were a couple of years older than me, but I was around too when they were playing, and it was a great time to grow up in Marshfield in the '60s and '70s for sure. Well, let's kind of start at the beginning because that's where we ought to start. And
Okay.
you've been a Marshfieldian for way more years than you probably can remember. But on the other hand, you weren't born here. So why don't you talk a little bit about your raising and maybe your family, your folks, and so forth.
Well, I was actually born in Winfield, Alabama, in 1942. Uh, Lived there. My parents, my dad worked for an uncle, and then a year or two, maybe a year or so later, we moved back into Mississippi, uh, and that's where I actually grew up. Went to school in Mississippi. Uh,
What town was that, Wayne?
Smithville, Mississippi,
Smithville.
Monroe County.
Uh-huh.
So I have had three sisters and a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Five of us kids. My older sister next to me has passed away 3 years ago, and so far the rest of us are still there. Of course, everybody. I love cousins down in that area.
What part of Mississippi is that?
Northeast.
Northeast. Okay.
And we grew up right close to the Alabama line. And so I have cousins on both sides there. A lot of cousins. I actually have cousins down in Arkansas here, scattered from probably Dexter, Arkansas to Jonesboro.
I see.
Had a great uncle that came there and raised, I think they said 12 or 13 children there.
Wow.
So they're all over that. I don't even know. I know of the family, but
right.
So.
How far was it Smithville from to Tupelo?
It was about 30 miles.
30 miles.
Something like that.
So you're a little bit younger than Elvis, but do you remember the Elvis
phenomenon? I remember Elvis, and he was a truck driver.
Yeah.
Drove a dump truck.
Yeah.
And it was a little different back then, but he was pretty well accepted, I think, for all us kids.
Yeah.
Then, so.
Yeah.
But I went to school. I was the Lions Club back in that day gave the sixth grade, at the end of the sixth grade, they had I guess you'd call it a medal. They awarded the girl and the boy was the best grades of the class.
Yeah.
So I had to win that.
Yeah.
But then I got, like some kids, I sloughed off the later years.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up quitting school my junior year.
Okay.
And which I shouldn't have, but I thought I was smarter than everybody else.
Was that about 53?
No, I've been in 50, probably 56.
56. Okay.
57.
Okay.
And my dad said, "Well, if you're going to quit school, you're going to have to come back and work on the farm." So
yeah.
So I did that for a couple of more years, and then went to work at a service station.
Okay.
So
yeah.
And I've often thought, ended up 37 years with Jim at the service station.
Yeah.
My granddad on my mom's side worked at a service station for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
What was your mom's maiden name?
Addington.
Addington. Okay.
So anyway, I ended up I was about to be drafted. I knew I was going to be drafted. I thought, well, I'm 18 years old. I think I'll just volunteer for the draft, and I did. Went in into the army.
So this was about 1960 by then.
1960.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Vietnam was really not started much.
No, hadn't even heard of Vietnam then.
Right. Korea was over.
The first thing they did, they, of course, put us on a bus from home there to Jackson, Mississippi, which that was the first time for me, a bus ride. And in Jackson, they put us on an airplane, flew us to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and I was sure we were going to die.
Shoot.
And it wasn't one of those quiet planes. Back then, they didn't have a quiet plane.
Yeah.
But anyway, we went to Fort Jackson for a week. Then they shipped us down to Fort Benning, Georgia. Mm-hmm. So I was there for basic. And then in January, sent me up here to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And that's quite a change from Fort Benning, Georgia in January.
Yeah.
To Fort Leonard Wood in the wintertime.
You've never been that far north, huh?
Never that far north, and we got off the bus or train at Newburgh with sleet, snow, ice, cold. He thought, what are we doing here? So, but anyway, that's how I ended up in Missouri.
I see. Okay. And that was right about 61 by then?
Probably. Well, I came here in January of 61.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then they sent us, after a couple of months, I had AIT training, they called it. Then to a permanent unit over at Fort Leonard Wood, and they shipped, our unit went to Chemical, Wisconsin. Engineering office, so we went up there to build it down.
Okay.
So then in, I think around October, we came back to Fort Wood. So spent the rest of my time at Fort Wood.
Yeah.
Of course, right after we came back, a friend of mine was going with a girl here in town and said, hey, I've got a girl, my girlfriend has a friend that I think you ought to go meet. So I did. Uh-huh. And met this young lady, and I guess the rest is history. Of the way. Well, we've had 2 children, Jeff and Lisa, and have 2 grandchildren. Yeah, 2 grandchildren and 1 great grandson. And Kay and I had from January to July would have been 58 years together.
Wow.
And
it's amazing. And tell them Kay was Kay Clare. You might tell them who she's kin to. Everybody probably knows it. But.
Yeah. Kay was secretary at school here for 31 years. She actually started in this building, this junior high, I believe, with Paul.
Paul Van Giesen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, I'm sorry. She started here with Mr. Dehart.
Mr. Dehart, okay.
And then Paul was over to the next
building. Yeah.
Well, I may have been we're left here, but
right.
So they got over there. So pretty well to that extent. And then after Kay passed away, at church, at Black Oak Church, met a lady, and we have since been married, and we've been married a little over 3 years now. Yeah.
Well, you've been blessed with a great family, and married into a good family, and then made your home here with Kay's family. When you were in school down there, like in those days, this would have been the 40s. Like, was there anything special that you could think of? Did you have certain friends? Did you play ball? Did you do things that with the family that maybe people might find interesting? Or
no, not really. I mean, in school, being in the country and not driving.
Yeah.
And so I didn't play ball even in high school.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a car. Ball practice was after school, and I was working on the farm.
Did your dad farm?
Yes, he farmed, and then he actually worked at a job also later, and so a lot of the farm was left up to me.
So you lived outside of town and on some
right.
acreage and so
Yeah.
forth. Yeah.
Cotton and corn.
Cotton and corn.
Yeah. Yeah. Pick cotton and blow corn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. But it was a good life. In fact, when I went in the army, I intended to go back and do that. But you know, life changed.
That's
You know
right.
what? You know what God has in
That's
store
right.
for you.
That's right.
You know.
Well, you had a special girl you had to take care of here, right?
But I'm very proud of the kids. My kids, both my kids are in the medical field. Jeff's in radiology. Lisa's a registered nurse, and of course she lives close to us. She's in Rogersville right now.
Oh yeah.
Jeff lives in Denver. My granddaughter is in West Plains, and my grandson's in California. He graduated at Raleigh in engineering, and he's employed out in California. And great grandson in West Plains. It's eight, and going to school there in West Plains.
Okay, I see. So you come, get out of the service, and you met Kay, and then, or I guess, was you still in service when you married, or did you wait till you get out?
Yeah, I met her and of course courted her. Back and forth, come down on leave or weekends, and so then we ended up trying to get married. We got married in July of 62.
62. Okay.
And then I got out of service in October 62. We went back to Mississippi. I went back to work where I was working at service stations, and so I stayed there till just about Christmas, or rather between Christmas and New Year. Decided we'd come back up here.
Yeah.
So came back here and thought, well, I'll go up there and draw unemployment for a while and try to find a job. And we just got here and get a call from Larry Taylor, and this is Michael's dad.
Yeah.
Larry and Shirley and Kay and I stood up with each other at our weddings. And Larry says, I got you a job Monday morning, you come to work. And that was at Welsh Manufacturing, or the knothole factory.
Yeah, I remember well.
I spent, I'm not sure, maybe close to 2 years there.
Yeah.
And
pretty going place then, wasn't
it?
Yeah,
it was.
A lot of people working there.
I just think the other day, I was talking to Gary Dustin. Gary worked there. Jerry Edwards. I don't know if you know Jerry.
I know Jerry, yeah.
Not many left that was working out there.
Yeah. For those that might not know, the knothole factory or Welch Manufacturing was behind Young Shopping Center in the building that's still back there. That I think they work on cars now back in there.
I think so.
But it was one of the few manufacturing companies in Marshfield at the time. And they made, well, why don't you tell them what they made and what you did?
They made all kind of cedar novelties, plaques, boxes, you know, jewelry box, mixture stuff. And their home office is in Camden.
Oh, is it?
I think they still have a factory there.
They
I'm
do.
not sure. Blair is Blair Cedar Novelties, I think.
Blair Cedar Novelties, and of course Blair Street, the street's named that crossed Washington there. There by O'Reilly's and Young Shopping Center. It goes on north, you know, down into the subdivision.
I ran a sander, so my fingerprints may be
interesting.
Sand those little boards, you know.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I got something I want to show. So, did an interview with Tom Barnes about, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was mentioning this to him, and I didn't have this with me that day, but he kind of had forgotten. So this is a little cedar box, okay. You can see on the back here, you can see the cedar is not where it's not painted. That's the bottom. But that little box came from the knothole factory. And what would happen is, see the cracks in it? So they had a scrap pile out back, and they were okay. I mean, they didn't care. No, people could go down there and they could load scraps to burn in their fireplaces to start fires with or whatever. Smelled good. You could put pieces of cedar in your closets. Some did for moths and things like that. But sometimes there would be boxes that were defective that didn't come out really good. And this one, you can see the crack in it. Of course, this thing's 60 years old probably now. But anyway, this little box, and on the front it says rings and things.
Mhm.
Rings and things. But it had the hinges on it and everything.
Yeah, they would put some cloth in there.
Felt or something. Yeah.
Them.
Yeah. Of course, this one didn't have the
and
felt
this
yet.
is what we sanded was these tops.
Uh-huh.
And then, of course, the guy who run the joiner.
Yeah, put the little handprint or place here for your finger.
Assembly lines.
Yeah, but on the back of this it says Lyndall Fraker's money box. So as a boy, I got one of these and had it, in my bedroom and would put money in it. Well, this ended up, believe it or not, in the flea market that Tom's mother, Jean, ran, which is now the condo building, which is Randy Clare's Jackson Grill building, right? It ended up in there for sale somehow. So I don't know over the years whether we sold it in a garage sale and then it ended up somebody else did. But Jean Barnes found that in her flea market and gave that to Tom to give me. And he gave me that years ago. I was already an adult. Anyway, that's my novel factory story.
Type of stuff.
That's
made there.
That was what I made there.
While working there, I ended up. Bob Baldwin had the little place there.
Across the street.
I ended up working for Bob at night.
He had a service station across the street.
Which
is where
more of a convenience store.
Where AutoZone is now.
Yeah.
That's right. It was a little grocery kind.
Worked there at night some and the weekends. And then ended up going to work for him full time.
Oh, did you?
And worked there for, I don't know, a year or two, maybe a year, maybe. Went to work at Chevrolet, Marshfield Motors. That was in the old building there with the four-way stop sign.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Working in the parts department with Glenn Dunn. And worked there a while, a year or so. I went back to Bob. He taught me into coming back. And then went back to Chevrolet in a year again. But I guess I ended up going back to Bob. I didn't stay that very long Chevrolet that time. And Carl Young calls me and wanted to see me. And I went up and talked to Carl and he said, would you be interested in on the foremost milk truck, which was the route that you delivered to grocery stores and stuff.
I remember that now. I forgot about
Bob Francis was on that at that time. And I said, yeah, I think I would. So I ended up went to work for them. Worked 3 years for the foremost. Good job, union job. But in the meantime, during that last 6 months or so, we started only working 4 days a week. So I went to work for Joe Paul at the station on those off days.
Yeah, and that Joe Paul Clare was your brother-in-law and had the Jim and Wayne station before Jim and Wayne did.
Joe Paul service station.
Yeah, Joe Paul service station, right.
And Jim had worked for him.
Now this was late 60s now, right?
It'd been 69.
69.
Well, 68.
Yeah.
We came in, Jim and I were working, and Joe Paul had some health problems. He'd had surgery. And he came in one day and he said, you boys are going to buy me out. And you know how Joe was.
Jim was helping him too?
Oh, Jim worked for him for 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And you know Joe.
Oh, yeah, I know Joe very well. He's my uncle.
You're going to do this, And we thought about it, and I guess we'll try it. So, and so we took over that in April of 69.
Yeah.
Of course, I had known Jim. Jim got me on the fire department in the meantime.
Okay, you were already on the fire department.
I got on the fire department like that, and I had also commissioned with the city of Marshfield, a policeman, and Webster County Sheriff's Department with Gene Fraker.
Got elected in 68. So,
And right after that, when I was that's how I ended up getting involved with the city. First thing, I guess you say, quite a change. A lot of stuff I'm proud of there in the cities too.
Oh yeah,
but,
we'll get into that here in a minute too.
And anyway, that's it's been a good life. Jim and I spent 37 years there.
Wow.
If we ever had a problem, I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Jim was a great guy.
Yeah.
Jim would rather be working than sitting. Of course, I've always liked to be busy.
Yeah.
And it worked out great
That's
for
a
us.
pretty amazing partnership.
Uh,
Really, it is
uh,
to go that long. I
yeah,
mean,
I said,
that's just
a lot
really
of marriages don't last that
no,
long.
they don't. And and you got spouses and families, and everybody's got to get along. It's really good. Show them that I got an ice scraper here. I had a couple of these at Jim and Wayne's service station, and I'm sure you've gave away
Yep.
thousands of
Yep.
those over
Yep.
the years.
Every year we'd have a lot of those, and
Yeah.
we had pins. I still have some pins from
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
One year we did have little pocket knives.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was a great life. We had a lot of different guys work for us over the years, younger guys.
Uh-huh.
My son worked for us when he was young, before he got involved with fire department and ambulance service and stuff. Yeah, I can name several boys around here that worked for us.
Yeah, yeah. Good training for them for young boys.
And then probably our longest employee would have been Adam Huey. Adam went to work for us, and I think he was 14.
Yeah.
And gosh, I don't know how many
He's
years.
in the county now, isn't he?
He works for the county.
Worked
now.
for the school many
That's
years.
Yeah, went on to school and then back to over to the county.
Yeah, yeah.
Adam was a good hand.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, he got where we used to depend on him a lot. So got where we could take off on Saturdays.
Right.
Just let Adam do it.
Right,
So,
right.
You know. But it was a good life. And,
Yeah.
Well, didn't get rich, but we
you took care
of a lot of people.
A lot of people. You full service gas pumps and
That's right. Never had a self service pump.
right.
Everything was full service.
Right. Right.
And so.
And you were Skelly for many years.
Started with Skelly, and then it went to Getty. I don't know how they Getty bought out Skelly, or it was part of it anyway. And then Texaco bought it out, and then Shell was buying out Texaco. And when they did that, our place wasn't good enough to put a sign up Shell. Oh, really? Huh. So at that time, we had to do things a little different. Yeah. Credit card stuff was handled a lot different. Yeah. That didn't bother anybody, I don't think. So they didn't really care. I've often said that I doubt if 3% of the people even had the idea what the price of gas was. They just come in and and
it was all about service.
I've had some young kids come back and older and said, I didn't know. Said all I ever knew is we come into your station and we signed a ticket and drove off. And I didn't know Daddy had to pay for that. Yeah. Oh man, those were the days, wasn't it? Yeah. Those little ticket books, and if you'd lost a ticket book or something, man, you'd lost a month's worth of profit, wouldn't you? Yeah. Business. You bet. Yeah. Yeah. It's simpler times, that's for sure. Well, so you started on the fire department when you were there, and then did you run for alderman first or straight to mayor? No, I went for mayor first. Mayor first, okay, because Jim was alderman. I don't know, because I said I was on the fire department, and the first call I made was a car fire. I remember that. And I drove the truck. And I pulled up on the scene, and I'd never been in the truck before. Yeah. I didn't know how to pump it. Yeah. And one of the other firemen was there, and he had trouble pumping it. And I thought, if I ever get in position, we're going to have some training. You're going to learn what's going on. Yeah. So what would there have been in those days? 8 or 10 volunteers or something, or just? It was probably 8. Probably 8. Maybe 8, 9. Normally they had a siren there at the old station. Yeah. So the phone call, if you called the fire department, went to show me answered the phone. Yeah. And I think maybe they had the phone there at the station. They set off the siren. Yeah. And then so they went and got the truck and they went around the square. So at that time, some of the businessmen were firemen. Sure, and the trucks were kept there north of the square. The little fire station there that the county has now, the building. And that was the only fire station there was, right? So what was there? 2 trucks, 3 maybe? When I started, they had the old, I think it was a 46 pumper that they weren't using, and they had the 67 Dodge, I believe it was. Yeah. The rural had an old army truck that was tore up.
Was it parked there too?
Yeah, everything was in that one building.
Yeah.
And the city workers used it for a work shed.
Yeah.
They worked on the equipment there.
Yeah.
On the ones on the deal.
Yeah.
And there was an old metal shed there by it that the city used a little bit for some stuff.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, at that time everything was in that one. And
how many calls would you get? Oh, 2 or 3 a week, or how?
no, not back then.
Not, you wouldn't get that many. I didn't know.
I'm gonna say at that back in those days, you might not get. I don't know if you'd get 40 a year.
Is that right?
It wasn't many.
What was the worst fire that you would have done in those early days? I know, like, you've been on the fire department all you, but like in those times, in the say late '60s, early '70s, what can you think of? We would have had a big fire. The was MFA
MFA Mill.
I remember that.
I came on after that.
Okay.
The biggest probably was the paint fire out the highway shed.
Okay.
You remember that?
I do.
Spur?
Yes, I do.
Where we had 55-gallon drums of paint going
up
in the air and coming down around us.
Yeah. I got a picture I'm going to show. Sorry if I distracted for a second. Some of you may have seen this picture. It's on Wayne's Facebook, and I've seen it as well. This is a great picture of Marshfield's early volunteer fire department. And I'm sorry that we won't get a great shot here, but at least you can go to Wayne's Facebook and you can find it. But I'm hoping we can get it a little better than that. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are mostly Marshfield business people, and
I think
of course
that was in.
It was all volunteer. Nobody was paid or anything.
I'm not sure what year that was made, but it's probably in the 70s, I think.
Yeah, and looks like it's probably at Mom's Cafe in the dining room or somewhere.
Probably Shorty's.
Shorty's Cafe. Well,
although I take that back. That may be in McShane because we got so big that Shorty couldn't handle it.
I see.
That would have been at Christmas. We had a Christmas dinner for the firemen.
Yeah.
And we did it Shorty's for years.
So, just to give some names here, Terry Cox.
Terry Cox, Bill Sims, Don Vandale, Gary Fraker, me, Joe Lurvy, and Dwayne Dunn.
On the front row. And then
John Fogelson, Jim Marlin, Don Cheever,
Jim.
Yeah. And
Jim
Scott,
Downing.
Jim Downing, Scott Ruth, Mike Rust.
Irvin Good.
Irvin's a record man always.
Yeah.
That's Ronnie Farr, then Randy Lawson, Randy Arthur, Jim Cook, Jack Hargis, Buddy Toward, and John Tunnell.
Volunteer fire department. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really, that's just a great classic Marshfield picture right there. And you had attorneys on there. You had, all kinds of walks of life there. So,
we did. We had a great group. A dedicated group.
Absolutely.
And this is guys that they said the attorneys might go out on a fire in a suit.
Yeah.
It may not be worth anything when they get done. You don't get paid for that. This is volunteer.
Well, those were the days that, you didn't have the bureaucracy we have in a community. And I'm not saying Marshfield has more than this. I'm just saying it was truly a grassroots effort. Everybody pitched in, did what they had to do to keep the city running and all that.
Well, you didn't have the things back then that we have now. And don't have the people we have.
Right. Money, didn't have the equipment.
The equipment is expensive, and now it's really expensive.
Yeah.
And then federal regulations got into it, and set a turnout year in 1974. We bought that pumper, and it came with, I think, 4 sets of turnout gear, like coat, pants, boots, and helmet.
Yeah, 4 sets.
And 4 self-contained breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
That's the first time we had any breathing apparatus. This was in 75, I guess, we got it. And before that, nobody had any turnout gear. But I think back then, something like that was $200.
Yeah.
Now you can't buy boots for $200.
Yeah, be $2,000 or more than that.
It has to be all this federal regulation on what it has to be.
Right.
And it is expensive. Of course, everything has gone up.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm really proud of the fire department on where we were and where we came to,
absolutely.
or where they're at now. Michael's done a great job. I think I was fire chief from in '73.
73. Okay.
And how I got to be fire chief, I was the only one out of town when Orlando's died. I was on vacation and I came back on vacation and they said, "You're now the fire chief because Oral passed away."
Oh.
That's what they told me anyway. That was
Yeah. That's funny.
But
So
that was
when,
73.
and then till when? When did you?
96.
Till 96.
No, I'm sorry, 94.
Okay.
When Tim Carlson is fire chief.
21 years.
At that time, we had two different departments, and had the city and the rural, and but chief and firemen were all for the same. Just use different equipment.
Right.
So, of course, now then everything's under the district, so, which is great. I got to see that.
And then when did you get elected mayor?
80.
In 1980.
I don't know why I decided to run for mayor. I mean, I had no problems. Claude Lewis was a good mayor, great guy. And he appointed me fire chief. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, I ended up running for mayor and got it. And
You did have an opponent?
No,
You
just him.
Well, I see. Just yeah. Well, you were pretty well known by then with your station, and
I had opponents twice after that. Barbara Carroll ran against me once, and then Bob Clark did once. And
so, how many years then as mayor?
20.
20 years.
80 to 2000.
80 to 2000. Okay.
So.
And then, but then you stayed on the fire department, right?
I stayed on the fire department. They say 50 years, but 45 probably. 40 pretty active, 45 a little less active because I had heart surgery then. But after I had my open heart surgery, it was time. Yeah. And you don't need the old guys looking over your shoulder, young chief too.
Well, it's good to have
sort of stand back and
good to have some gray hair in the room though.
But
especially with the young guys, they need to have somebody.
Really proud of those. Michael had him. Of course, like I said, his parents. We were all friends. And then he was a junior fireman, and he grew up there. So I've really been proud of him and the job that they've all done. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And then something we hadn't talked about yet, but the 911 board was all formed during that time. Where 911. Now, did you serve some time on that as well?
I'm not even sure how many years I was on that.
I knew you were. I thought you were.
Yeah, several years.
Yeah.
Because I was always interested in that.
Right.
Because I see that it was something that needed to be done.
Right. Right.
And I remember when we didn't have that. I mean, there was. In fact, when I was working for the county and city, we didn't have a dispatcher.
Yeah.
They had a trustee up the jail.
Yeah. And Bert from home.
And Bert and Gene, but
yeah.
Up till about 9 and 10 o'clock, they would help you on the radio.
Sure.
Then after that, we would run our stuff through Greene County. Back then, Greene County was real good.
Yeah.
Helped a lot of counties around us like us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even back then, you only had, I think, most of the time, 2 troopers in the area. Assigned here sometimes. Right. Then it got to be 3. And they usually went off at between 10 to midnight. And 2 deputies, one day and one night.
That's right.
So
amazing how much was put on the shoulders of the sheriff and the department and the firemen and all of it. It just
see the phone system then we could have 10 phones on the fire phone. So sheriff's office would have one. We had one at our station. And Show Me had one. And then that left 7 for firemen to hear. And then otherwise somebody had to call.
Yeah.
So no radios. First radios, we did have a lot of CBs in among us.
Yeah.
Then Sheriff Fraker got a grant, got some new radios, and gave us a couple of the old radios for fire trucks. So then we had some contact
Yeah.
with the radios with them, but then I think we ended up getting more radios, and I don't know, we got walkie talkies, so the sheriff's office could page us,
Yeah.
more or less, call us on that.
Right.
So we got a new radio system. When Gene got, they got a chance, we got a new radio system. What year it was, but when they did, had new channels, and they got radios and walkie talkies, and fire department was able to buy some stuff. I bought 20 something radios from Show Me Power, the old ones, and we converted them to fire department use so the guys could have some.
Yeah.
So it was a struggle back then.
Yes.
All
Yes.
that. So,
Yes.
but a lot of guys give a lot of time,
Right.
and a lot of expense.
Then you had some that went on, and like Mike Rust and Scotty Ruth.
Mike Rust, Scotty Ruth, I'm really proud of those boys.
Right,
Went
went on
straight to the fire
Springfield,
department and retired.
Made good careers with it. Yeah.
So,
Well, time's flying by. It's already a quarter till.
okay.
So as mayor, tell us a little bit about maybe some of your accomplishments or some of the things that you highlights.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I might do that a little.
Yeah.
I just was reading this. When I was mayor, we had 38,000 or 3,800 people.
3,800. Okay.
And then in 2000, they said we had 66,000. 6,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that was almost double.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, who knows on the out perimeter.
The 65706 zip code, right, from the school system would have been.
Yeah, who knows at that time.
Yeah.
When I started as mayor, our budget was a little less than $1 million.
Really?
And then when I got out, it was $3 million.
3 million.
That's not a very big increase, but for 20 years. But
I wouldn't dabble what it did in 10 million today.
Oh yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
more than that. I don't know.
I like growth, but I didn't want fast growth.
Yeah.
So I was never.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Try to get. Taxes, services.
Yeah.
Fire, police, city. So,
right.
Water, sewer. So.
Well, you look at Nixa, you look at Ozark. Now Republic's going through it. Willard's about to go through it. Heck, even Stratford is. They're not quite there seeing the explosive growth, but all these communities are seeing some pretty big growth, and it's kind of scary. Your town totally changes.
Right. Yeah. It's said that in the 20 years I was on, the sales tax revenue has increased to 560,000 over what it was.
Yeah.
So, and that's Walmart, grocery stores.
Sure. Yeah.
It was a big thing. So, I don't know. A lot of things proud of there. I did get the city computerized.
Mm-hmm.
We were lucky and got in a great program. A company was real good that we ended up with, and we started, of course, there in the offices, and then I think the next year or 2 years, we got into where getting the little meters they could carry and the water meters.
Yeah.
Before they was reading by hand, two people, one to write, one to read, and then take them back to the office, and the ladies there would have to enter that in the computer, which was faster than what we'd been doing, of course. But then the next year they were able to fix it where we take the little boxes out with them and come back and look it in the computer and it downloads right into it.
Yeah.
So I think that to me was a big accomplishment.
Sure.
The treatment plant, John Cooper down there, and John was a great guy down there. He done an excellent job.
Mm-hmm.
And he got on to being able to make some programs through some of the stuff we had to do a lot of his reports and things that he could do down there. Yeah. He was able to learn all that. So it's glad to see that. Of course, now I'm not sure where they stand, but one thing I tried to do for years and they were working on it was trying to get water lines, sewer lines into the system where they could be able to say, over here's such a line. So
yeah.
And And I assume now they have worked most pretty well that way. Maybe I don't know, but
Well, that whole period from, say, when you started to today, which if you add it together, would be about 40 years. I mean, you just think about all the old lines that were put in back at the early part of the century. They've all had to be replaced in that 40 years. Because I know when I started kind of doing stuff around town, they were putting in new lines, replacing those old original lines. I mean, it's a major undertaking to do that, and there was a lot of that done in your time.
yeah, I hadn't been mayor very long, probably 3 or 4 months, and I had been home for lunch, and I come back down McVeigh Street there, and the city boys were there, and they had a long stretch dug out, and Ray Graves was there, and of course I've known Ray ever since I've been here, and I stopped and said, Ray, what's going on? How's he doing? How you doing? Oh, he's had a water leak, and he said, I want you to look at this. They had this stretch of pipe was probably 15, 20 foot long, laying out there. They dug out. And I said, you know what about it? He said, you see those things? I said, it's funny looking. He said, that's patches.
Uh,
It's about, I think, 20 foot. It was 10 to 12, 13 patches on this piece of pipe.
in 20 foot.
And I said, well, Ray, I had somebody replace with the pipe. That's got to be expensive. Nobody's ever told us we could.
Really.
So after that, we started doing a lot of that and stocking pipe. They didn't even stock pipe at the shed at that time.
Yeah.
So we were able.
That would have been old what? Metal pipe of some sort, galvanized.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Of course, you put in the new plastic.
Yeah. That was one thing I always liked to see was that guys have the tools to be able to fix stuff and work with, and I felt like the same way at Webster Electric.
Sure, absolutely.
You guys can't work without the proper tools.
Right, that's right.
And
it pays in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, in 1991, we had something special happen, and I wanted to talk about that for just a minute. I don't know if you've thought about this, but I listened to Roy Beck talk at the Cherry Blossom Festival about President Bush's visit in 1991, and he kind of made me think about the fact that how many times who's had the opportunity to have the President of the United States in a small town in rural Missouri or in, say, a rural town anywhere in the United States, in their hometown on the 4th of July, walk a parade, get out of the car and walk a parade. We think about President Kennedy and,
Right.
shouldn't have took the bubble off or whatever. But when you start thinking about all those things, it may have not happened ever like it did here in Marshfield to that extent, if you really think about it. I mean, going all the way back to the olden days. I mean, I'm sure they maybe rode a horse and buggy down a street, but it was really unique. It was really special, and you were right there.
Well,
Tell us about that.
I never expected that a little country boy from Mississippi in later life be able to meet the President of the United States, shake hands with him, and walk a parade route with him, and then stand in the receiving or the stand over there while they watch the parade.
Spent about 3 hours with him, didn't you?
Quite a while. It's quite a while, and I was the only one with a suit coat on too. Well, you remember Gordon Northwest's article on that. I didn't know what to do with it. Everybody else pulled theirs off, and I still had mine on. But anyway, that was a great opportunity, a great event. A lot of people worked hard on that too. I mean, it wasn't just one person.
There was a lot,
and it took a lot of people just getting ready for it. Don Russ there with the county, they took a big share of that stuff, getting ready for it, and the people that helped driving people back and forth and all this stuff. And so when we found out about it, and then the advanced group came, of course they wanted to have a meeting morning and evenings. And of course I get the call, they're having the meeting, you need to come. So I'm at work on my motorcycle. So I pull up on the square in my motorcycle and go to my work clothes, and I get out and go in, and Secret Service guys are, you know, who's this guy? But the day or two, everything was great. They had two guys from Secret Service that were here from, I think, maybe 3 weeks altogether. They were great. They got work real. I don't say didn't worry about things here. I think with us. In fact, one of the guys we actually made him honorary mayor. I've got pictures of Bill Sims swearing him in. It's a courthouse, and then one of the guys came back by the station about a month later and got gas and talked to us a little bit. But they it was just a lot of time involved, and then of course, like I said, expense.
Can you remember anything that President Bush might have said to? I know he was with him 3 hours. But anything kind of unique or special that you can remember that he might have said, or questions he might have asked you, or something?
No, really, Kay and I met him over at the bank. And they came in and shook hands, and then they took him back to get all his vest and stuff. So Barbara had said we talked with her a little bit. So it was hard for him and I to really talk a whole lot.
Sure. I understand that.
I was really impressed with him. His memory. After he came back in, of course they brought Tommy and all the big shots and miniatures, and met everybody. And of course Tommy had on his uniform. And of course George was an old military man, and of course they talked a little there. And so then after we left the bank, and the Secret Service had told me, said, now you stay by him and keep him moving. Me, tell the president, come on. But we came out of the bank. Of course, the first thing he does, he's the policeman involves standing out there, so he goes shaking hands. And then as we get out on the street, he's just one side of the street to the other. And all I can do to keep up with him, and it finally gets to the point where the Secret Service agent says, just stand back and I'll stand by him. So, because they were watching. People. In one occasion, I heard the agent say, show me your hands. And some guy was down doing this. He was trying to get his camera going or something. And of course, there it is. And, but they were pretty comfortable here, I think. I mean, they had a lot of protection here. They had sharpshooters in some of the buildings. We couldn't have done it without the Highway Patrol and Springfield PD. Ron Washam was assistant chief at that time of Springfield, and he was up here with the Springfield PD, and of course other officers around too. So, but it just it took everybody. It takes a lot.
Great community event, I recall.
But I can say is coming around the parade, and like I said, he's seen everybody. He shake hands, and all the people coming through. But here comes the American Legion float, or Legion float, the BFW, and he said, "That's Dr. McDonald there. I remember him." I thought, that's pretty good, though. Everything going on, and he remembers, and I can see him being an old service guy.
Right.
But
well, I just happen to have a picture here that I keep hung on my wall. I've got a few things from the day, and I was honored to be in the part of that driving tour, and was able to drive some people around. And so here's probably the most prestigious, I guess, or the most dignitaries in one picture from the day. And over here you have Don, let's see, I'm backwards here, Don Roast, and then Kay Plunkett, Wayne's wife, Mel Hancock, Congressman, and John Danforth, Mrs. Bush. Then John Ashcroft there next to Mrs. Bush, and Kit Bond, who was I guess our senator by that time. Danforth was a senator as well. John T. Russell, Aunt Leona there, Don Roast's wife, and then John T. Russell. No, I'm sorry, that's Wayne Plunkett right there, mayor right here, and then Secret Service behind the president, and then President Bush on the very end there. So, yeah, great picture. That's a classic.
Yeah, I have several pictures from those.
Yeah,
they sent me a lot of pictures, and yeah, read that. Of course, he had his Secret Service protectors. Barbara had hers.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, it was
I had Ken Clardy for me.
Well, they did the job, didn't they?
Yeah,
they sure did. And you think about it. This was before. Really, we didn't have the internet yet. It was before cell phones. We might have had some bag phones by that time, but didn't have all this social media garbage that we deal with today. The world was I'm not saying it was perfect world, but it was a happier place. We had slower pace. We're celebrating the victory, I guess, in Desert Storm. I think was part of he was gearing up for the next election, and I think his approval rating at the time of this parade was like close to 90%, one of the highest approval ratings of any president. Very popular. And again, we didn't have all this dissension we have today. Neighbors didn't talk politics. Well, they talked politics, but not to the extent we do today, to where we become enemies.
Well, back then they might argue a little bit, but I mean, it was a friendly deal.
Exactly.
Nobody got mad over it.
Exactly. Just a different world today. Well, just a great time serving as mayor. Great job, Marshfield. A lot of growth, and again, we really appreciate your efforts there, Wayne. Then you moved into, I guess, Webster Electric, and tell us a little bit about being on the board of Webster.
Yeah, I've been mayor, and someone came around and said, maybe you ought to look at being on the Webster board. You run for that, and I was like probably 90% of the people are. All I knew about electricity was you turn the flip the switch and it come on.
Pay your bill.
Pay the bill, and so I did. I ran for that. I guess 5 of us ran for the. They had not had an election for board members in 2 years because it hadn't been able to get a quorum.
I see.
And so the bylaws is they'll have election, you serve, until you're elected or defeated.
Yeah.
And so I did run for that. And it's interesting. It's a never-ending challenge, today especially.
Yeah.
Changed a lot over the 20 years. This is my 24th year.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yesterday, Thursday was when the 24th.
Yeah.
And
unprecedented growth there with the co-op in that time too, hasn't there been?
It has a lot, and then when the thing slowed down, it slowed down, but now it's picking back up a lot. It takes. I never thought about it, but it's a different learning process on the board. I know John Bill Greer came on at the same time I did. He's a banker, financial man. I was in business. It was a little challenge for us to understand how it operates.
Yeah.
And but the power boards have done a great job. Webster's always been in good financial shape. It was when we started, very good. And I've seen a lot of changes over the back. We have training classes, stuff to go to, and that's changed a lot from all men to some ladies now on the boards around. Missouri has a unique system at what they call 3-tier system, where we're a distribution. We bring it to your home. Show Me brings it to the co-ops, and then Associated Electric generates the power and brings it to Show Me and the other 8 G&T's like show me. So it's a lot of learning to learn about how it operates. But and like I said before, I think the boards we've had, especially us that started and the ones now, we're concerned with keeping good equipment and for the guys to work with and girls inside have modern stuff. And so it's a good organization. It's well run, and we're doing all we can to keep the price down.
Yeah.
Uh,
And even though rates continue to go up all nationwide or everywhere, but Webster Electric is still, and you may not be able to say this, but when I was in Jeff City, it was, if not one of the very lowest cooperatives on the rates of all of them in Missouri.
I think there's one under us now.
Is that right? Yeah. So that's something that we can all appreciate and thank the board for.
Well, we have, let's see, we have now 28 employees, I think. Our capita employee per membership is lower than anybody's.
Yeah.
Most co-ops our size double the employees.
Yeah.
We keep Tom's doing a great job keeping things trimmed down. Not a lot of lost stuff there, I guess.
Right.
So
well, that's important in any business, and that's why business people like yourself are important to have on the board. It needs to be a good mix and cross section.
And like I said, the rates. If the government keeps going, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
One thing about it, we're all in the same boat. I mean, I pay the same as you do, so whatever we have to raise the price, it's for me too. It's you, and I'm sure it's hard for some people to understand, but we have to operate, and transformers are probably triple or more than triple now. Cost where they were 3-4 years ago. And so.
Well, you look at anything, price of a new vehicle, it's nothing. Look at $60,000-$70,000 for a new pickup. I can't buy a new pickup. And probably 10-15 years ago, I could have, if I didn't, but I could have probably, but I couldn't do it today. I mean, it's just crazy how things have went up. So.
I think Jim and I bought new pickups in '73.
Yeah.
And if I remember, I think they were maybe like $3,000.
I was gonna say $3,000 or $4,000. Yeah.
When I worked at Chevrolet in the '60s, 64 or 5, you could buy a pickup for probably $1,500 to $2,000.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of choices though.
No, that's true. You didn't have as many, did you? But wouldn't you love to have one of them today?
Hey, I bought a '67 Impala.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
I wish I had it today. I'd like to sell it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but that same car now. What's the 2-door hardtop?
Oh, unbelievable. Well, Wayne, believe it or not, it's 2:05. We started about 1:05. We'll wrap this up. It's really been a pleasure.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Any final words on your retirement years? You and the missus. You guys, I'm sure you enjoy visiting grandkids and things like that. Anything? Travel a little bit. I know you went to see Jeff the other day.
I did. I went to see Jeff. Joanne has some breathing problems, and she's on oxygen most of the time. And her son came from Minnesota to visit her, and Jeff had some stuff I need to take to Jeff. And good time. So Jeff and I went out. We went out on Wednesday and came back on Monday. And we had a nice visit. Made a couple of little rounds there in Rocky Mountain National Park stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
And had a good time. But Joanne and I like to get out and ride a little bit on the weekends, and she feels like it. So I feel fortunate that I started a church out at Black Oak and sitting on the back seat like most Baptists.
Yeah.
And she ended up sitting down by me and a couple of weekends, and we got a little acquainted, and things went from there.
Well, that's good.
She was a Conway girl.
Yeah.
But she lived in Colorado for several years, and Of course, their brothers up there in Conway. Uh, so we decided, at our age, we'd be company for each other,
There
I
you
guess.
go.
So,
That's right. Well,
and we're figuring on enjoying it. We both like to read.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can just be happy sitting there reading.
Yeah. And I know you like history. I like history, and we were reminiscing a little bit before the show here, and so it's great, really great to have you on. And again, thank you so much for your service. And I've told some other guests we've had on, it'd be great to get some of them together, and reminisce together, and we could even do it in a bigger environment. Maybe we could do that someday and bring some of you back and talk about the old days in Marshfield. There's just so much knowledge there and so many stories that I think it's important to pass on.
It is, and if you
to
don't
future
get it
generations.
recorded or
Yes.
down somewhere,
Right.
it's going to be gone.
It'll be gone, and
It's just like Grandma.
Yep.
I remember Grandma knew all these things and would tell you that it went out one ear down.
Right. Yeah. Same here. Same.
They're gone.
They're gone.
That,
So we're gonna do it. We're gonna keep documenting, and if you have any further thoughts,
Okay.
we'll bring you back, or if you have some, we can tag team. We could have a guest or two come on with you, and I want to get Jim Downing on. Jim would be a great guest,
Right.
and so we'll keep doing what we're doing.
all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you again, hopefully next week, and keep enjoying stories from the days gone by.